Of course.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome everyone to Acosphere Instagram Live. This week again, we have a very interesting person, and let me introduce our friend. Touria El Glaoui, born and raised in Morocco, Touria El Glaoui completed her education in New York before beginning a career in the banking industry as wealth management consultant. After 10 years in this field, she relocated to London, where she initiated 154 Contemporary African Art Fair in 2013. 10 years almost. Time flies. She has since launched the fair in New York in 2015 and in Marrakesh in 2018. 154 is now a world-leading platform dedicated to contemporary art from African and its diaspora. Parallel to her career, Touria has organized and co-curated exhibitions of her father's work, Moroccan artist Hassan El Glaoui, in London and Morocco. Touria El Glaoui was listed among the 50 most powerful women in Africa by Jeune Afrique magazine in 2015, 2018, and 2019. She is Chevalier de l'Ordre des Arts et des Lettres de la République française since February 2019. Wow, we have an incredible and a very humble, I must say, guest today. Welcome, Touria.
Thank you. It sounds very, very, how you say, vanity. I don't know, but I'm very excited to be here. But this listing of, yeah.
Well, yeah, it's always daunting to see to hear somebody else read the things that you've done. You know, don't even consider them. So welcome everyone, and welcome Touria. So you are a global citizen. You have lived around the world. Your LinkedIn profile describes you and your brand as founding director of 154 Contemporary African Art. Touria, what is your story?
So my story, I was born and raised in Morocco. I had the chance to start my childhood with a father who was an artist, as you say. His name was Hassan El Glaoui and quite established in Morocco. So I think it's thanks to him that I had my first art education. Growing up in Morocco in between the end of the 70s to the 80s, there was not much of cultural platforms or institutions to get this art education. So I think I was quite privileged to have a father in that field, to kind of understand, I guess, the rope of this art industry in general, what he was doing, what he was dealing with. His studio was in the heart of our home. So we definitely had a chance to learn by just looking around, our home, meeting some great people, coming to see his art, and having him dragging us, to exhibitions, when we were on holidays in the summer, and we had the occasion to have a few museums around the house. He would not stop, from having us discover all the culture we could, before we went back to Morocco for the school year. And then I had a lovely French mother who is a fantastic mom, and who gave us, this bicultural, universe, in Morocco, which was also a great, I guess, addition to my education. And I decided later, I guess, to go study in New York, and studied finance, because I thought I had to study something very, very serious to let my parents, give me the go ahead to go to study in the US. And I think I loved it, but I'm not really sure, that this is exactly what I wanted to do, but I thought, I was good at studying and I could do it. So that work after my studies. And what I did is that I did my first, job opportunity in finance in New York, where I stayed almost 10 years. Then I realized that, I was not at the level where I wanted in my career, and a lot of people advise on doing an MBA. So I did an MBA, in the US, and basically tried to move, upper the different level of positions, in the corporate structure. And finally, I moved to London, where I work for a telecom and IT company. And this is where my journey began in discovering really the continent of Africa, because it's thanks to my different professional careers that I had the chance to go first to North Africa, where I had the first management position, to manage a company in Morocco. And then I had later the opportunity to work for an American company where I had a regional manager role, where I discovered the rest of the continent. And I have to say, this is probably the best discovery of my professional career. I think it made my 5 years at this very American corporate company, because I had the chance to discover the whole continent. And I guess thanks to my father and the curiosity that he installed in us, with the art and the I guess the passion he was able to provide us with towards art, I was very fascinated to discover, all the different artistic scene I was on the continent where I was working. So I would always take time, to go, try to find artist studios, or in the cities where I was staying for work, or I would try to get connected to the artists, or curators or institutions or cultural platforms that were available, to try to understand what was going on the continent. And this is where I realized that as soon as I would, come back to Europe or to the US, that there was absolutely no trace of those talents I was discovering, on the continent. And for me, I don't know if I thought I had an eye or not, but I didn't understand it, because I found, the work I was discovering extremely good, and I thought it deserved to be, part of the international discussions, that it deserved to be included in those big museums in Europe or in the US. And since it was not really my industry, at that point, I didn't know if it was done or not done, or somebody had tried and had failed. I didn't know really exactly why this access to the contemporary art from the African continent was not taking place. And I think with the years in this company and my trips, I think I became more and more involved also with my father's work, and help him to support him to do exhibitions, and really appreciating this art industry as it was for my father, and really trying to get myself an understanding of what I was seeing on the continent, and not being able to see it in Europe or in the US. And I think this is when the idea came about. I thought that they had something to be done for this particular field and industry that I loved, that I couldn't understand that particular lack of integration in the contemporary art world in an international global stage. So I looked into it. Took 2 years to actually start the fair, trying to understand, what we could do, what kind of platform we could create, why it had not been done, try to understand basically a sustainable business model for such a platform. And when I was, I guess, a bit more ready, I was able to launch in 2013, because I almost thought I would launch before, but I was not ready yet, and I couldn't do it yet until, I waited a bit longer. But this is the story of me getting to 154, where I am now, which now 8 years down the line, I think, has, a certain level of a reputation for contemporary art of the African continent or the African diaspora. And I think it's exciting this way, to be able to have managed to bring it where it is today. But it was not without any challenges or any crazy obstacles in my way, but we made it, and I'm happy to know that we're still, here and relevant, 8 years later.
Yeah, congratulations. What a journey. What a journey. So what's the biggest opportunity you have faced in your lifetime? Why was it the biggest opportunity, and what shift did it create in you and your ecosystem?
Well, definitely think, the first great opportunity was I was able to get a scholarship to the US, so I think my parents were not really keen for me to go to the US, wanted me to go to Europe because my sisters were in Europe, and they thought it was too far. So I guess my first opportunity to try to do what I really wanted and be, be where I wanted to be at 17 was definitely the scholarship. It shifted also a bit the relationship with my parents, because I finally did something they didn't really want me to do, in a way, but in a good way, as soon as they thought I was safe and, being serious about my studies, it was completely fine. But I think that was the first opportunity. I think the second opportunity didn't present itself as an opportunity, but it became an opportunity. to give me a kick, you know, to start 154. And it was the choice that my previous professional job gave me, which was either to stop covering the African continent, you know, and come back to the UK to cover the UK markets,
Yeah.
or to, you know, I had to make a choice, and I took the choice to leave, which basically led me to accelerate and really concentrate on building 154. So I think it was a great opportunity, because, you know, if they had not given me the savings, you know, to go on for 2 years, I wouldn't have been able to work and preparing 154 with enough saving on my back, you know, to not have to worry about my day-to-day life.
Okay, get it. When I think of you, your brand, some of the following words come to my mind. A powerful woman, creative, well-educated, humble, a go-getter. So I have two questions in one. The first one is, what words would you use to describe yourself, and why you are effective at the things that you do? And then what skill set did it require for you to develop and be successful in the field in which you are?
I would probably say I'm very determined, you know, like in terms of being very consistent and like continuing the efforts, even if I don't see, you know, sometimes the positive development of the efforts I put in, you know, or how long it takes to get to the goal I'm trying to get. So I would say that determination is probably you know, an adjective that I would use to describe me. And curious, you know, I'm very curious about things I do. I'm curious about everything, every creative aspect of where I work. So it's not just art, but it will be music. It would be anything that has to do with creative. And I think in reality, I'm a very curious person. So I think that helped as well in me, you know, going and discovering things that I might have not been discovering if I, you know, I was very, you know, sticking to my path and not that curious. And in terms of skills, I think being persistent, which is part of being determined, you know, really helped me out in trying to solve problems, you know, as I got along in this, you know, entrepreneurship journey. I think in terms of skill sets, it's definitely maybe my, you know, I had definitely, I would say skills that I've learned through my professional life that, you know, I was able to adapt and use, you know, like developing markets, for example, for things that were not, you know, existing for, you know, completely different field. But this is a bit what we've tried to create. We created a market for contemporary art coming from the continent and the African diaspora. I think I'm very good with network people that around me, you know, to help me out. And I think building 154, one thing that supported me a lot was the advisory board I put around me, you know, to support, you know, my initiative. And I think a lot of people that I've chose to be around me, you know, allowed me to move forward, you know, with this project, you know, and get me the right contact or the right entrance or the right, you know, advice that I might have not have, you know, at that moment, you know, to bring 154 to life.
Yeah, I get it, absolutely. So as the founding director of 154, the African Contemporary African Art Fair, which is now a world-leading platform dedicated to contemporary art, where do you think African art is headed? And would you recommend to people listening to us and to others to invest in art? And if so, why?
Well, since we've started, to be honest, you know, it's quite a positive outlook that I can give, you know, because we had much more visibility than when we started. So there's definitely a strong interest in contemporary art from the continent and the African diaspora as we speak today, in terms of even initiative or exhibitions around the world, you know, including artists from the continent or the African diaspora, or completely in a different level of where I found them in 2013. In terms of price and interest, I think that the past 8 years have been a constant growth in terms of value for those artists, you know. So I think we've seen, you know, all the artists, I can say with quite, you know, confidence, have seen growth in their pricing value. There's something about investing in art that is important. And I would say that to not any collector, but even more so to African collectors. It is something that they should do regularly, constantly, and try to support their artistic scene all the time, because they want to be the first to acquire those pieces, you know. Like for the moment, 154 is giving access for those artists to the international market, but we don't want to be in a scenario or a situation where Africans are too late to the game and are not buying their own, you know, their own art. So it is very important. They are the first one who can grab those pieces before they go internationally, and they should really invest in their artistic scenes, you know. So I completely understand that someone from, you know, Senegal starts with, you know, collecting Senegalese artists, but you should do it because it's important. It's also, you know, for a lot of young artists, very affordable, and a lot of money one day. It's an amazing thing, but like, you know, in the meanwhile, you know, you can buy pieces that you love for your home. You can support, you know, young artists, you know, who was courageous enough to go into this field, which is not an easy field to go to, you know. And I mean, we all know that coming from the continent, you know, we usually have parents that are expecting so much from studies, from a professional job, from supporting the family, from, you know, doing a lot of things. So when you have those very, very courageous, you know, young individual who are going into, you know, creative field, you know, it's important that their local community is supporting them and trying to support, you know, that those young talents. So I think that anybody, as an advice, I would say, you know, try to support the closest, you know, creative artistic scene that you have around you. You know, you can do it by buying art, by supporting an exhibition. You know, there's always a cost to any production of artwork, you know, so there's different ways to do it. But if you want to see it as investing, definitely buy art, you know, and buy your own artist first.
Fully agree with you. We negotiated 10 years ago with an artist you know well, Soli Cissé, in his own home, in his, you know, in his atelier. And now you cannot negotiate with him, even though he's a friend of ours. You know, you have to go through his agent, and
Yes.
his prices are totally different. Anyhow, so good example. Thank you for that. We are into 2021, and yet in most part of the world, many women with equal or better skill sets than men get the short end of the of the stick. No equal pay, no equal treatments, and many other things. You mentioned, you know, we were talking about Bikram, and unfortunately, we still have issues of aggression, sexual aggression, and others. What should men do to contribute to the improvement of women's opportunities, whether they work in the corporate world or whether they work in institutions or they're entrepreneurs?
I know it's very, I get standard as an answer to give an equal opportunity to women when you have one. But I think in that case, it's to consciously make, you know, that opportunity happen. That means that it's not as easy probably to find a woman who's as qualified, who could work for you for a particular opportunity, because she has duties, you know, coming from the continent even more so, if she's married, if she has, you know, kids. So it's trying to make sure that the opportunity is available, but also possible for women to take. So if your corporate world or entrepreneurial company doesn't have, you know, the security that she needs, you know, to be able to maintain her role, maintain, you know, her duties at a certain level of management, but you can make sure that there's, I don't know, a kindergarten next, you know, in your building, or some kind of a creche, you know, that can keep her kids, you know, to make an opportunity. And I'm saying that because if I transport it into our art world community, you know, we have residents of artists who are very important for artists to do. You know, they go around the world or even in their country, you know, to keep their mind free, to let them being just creative, so not have the worry of a house, of a home, of a family, or anything like that. And those, for example, residency are often created without the woman as a mother in mind, you know. And I mean, as much as a woman would love to do, you know, those residency program, you know, if she doesn't know that her kids are safe, if her husband is taken care of, or maybe she can take the whole family with her to do her residency, you know, that would help her, you know, grow and move forward. But those residencies, you know, are not automatically thought through to the fact that, you know, there might be a baby involved, there might be, you know, some kind of a woman component, you know, around that that needs to be thought through, you know, for a woman to be taking part of those things. So I think it's easy to say, you know, our company, you know, has equal opportunities, but I think we can all look a bit further to make sure we give those opportunities, or even look for the right, you know, or give this maybe the possibility for women to have, you know, more flexible hours to work from home, or, you know, not treat, you know, not make their, in a way, life a bit easier for them to get the, you know, to get to the level of being able to accept those opportunities.
Get you. I get you. So time is flying. Let me ask you the last three questions. You have spoken widely and chaired numerous discussions on contemporary African art and women in leadership and at leading institutions and events globally. What tips about public speaking and the business skills you have developed would you give to our audience?
For public speaking, to make it to make it very simple, practice makes it perfect. You know, like you have to practice, you know, the more prepared you are, and to be honest, the more it comes naturally. I can only say it through my TED Talk, you know, experience, where, you know, we had to learn by heart, you know, our our speech, so we could be very, very at ease in front of a 700 people audience. And they wanted us to have it so much, you know, like a natural thing, that we could almost not think about it and just think about our presence, you know, on stage. And to be honest, no one has that type of time all the time to get ready for a public speaking. But I think the confidence and probably the comfort comes with the fact that you know your topic very well, that you're probably the most knowledgeable on that topic, you know, when you talk about it in front of an audience, and to not be scared to repeat in front of friends, in front of, you know, in front of the mirror. You know, sometimes I do it, you know, still when I'm not ready for a talk. So I think, you know, I guess the confidence come with the practice, that's for sure. And the practice is something, unfortunately, you have to go through, you know, like there's probably some amazing natural speakers in the world, but I'm not one of them. So I have to practice and get ready and read my bullet points a couple of times before I go on stage, or I talk, you know, to an audience.
You always strike me as a very disciplined, very organized person, and it comes across when you speak. So speaking to your younger self, my dear, not that you're old, you're very young. With the knowledge that you currently have, what are the 3 essential pieces of advice that you would give yourself or a young person that's listening to us about, you know, embarking in the career you've had?
The first one is definitely to try to understand, once you go in a field of studies, you know, what are your opportunities, you know, and understand if this is something that will be of interest to you later. Because I think a lot of the students I've seen are, you know, try to mentor, you know, took fields of studies that they might not have understood the type of opportunities, you know, they had at the end of their diplomas, or, you know, what they wanted to do. And I think today we have the opportunity to try to get experience from a very young age, you know, in the different fields that might be of interest, or understand, you know, what kind of ecosystem you'll be working with, you know, in terms of studies. So if it was me, you know, my young self wanting to study finance, I would have liked someone, or try to find, you know, the knowledge I needed to understand what type of job was waiting for me at the end of those 4 years of finance. I probably would have skipped a few, you know, steps to go straight to what I really like to do. And I mean, to be honest, I would say to my younger self also to try to do something you love, because you won't feel it's work, and it's exactly, you know, what I have the chance to do right now. And I know not everybody has the chance to do something we love, so I'm not saying that, but like try at least to find a position that lets you go towards a goal you're trying to reach. So even if it's not the perfect job, try to really understand what skill set you can take from this to take to the next job, because it's very important, and try to move towards your goal, or towards what what you really want to, you know, achieve. I think that in my case, I could have taken some shortcuts, you know, if I had the right guidelines and the right mentoring, which I didn't have probably younger. And that's coming from a loving family, but my father being an artist, my mom, you know, being a lovely mom, but, you know, she didn't really, you know, work. So I was a bit left on my own to make those decisions. And I think that if I had the time, I would say, you know, try to make sure you know, that those 7 years or 10 years you're going to spend in a corporate life, or a journey or professional journey, you know, brings you something very specific, you know, to either your experience or to where you're trying to go next. And I think that I was very lucky, you know, in terms of finding my path, you know, and not taking too long to find it. But I'm sure that, you know, I could have enjoyed a few shortcuts if I was better mentored.
So mentoring is quite important. Thank you for that. We're coming to our last question. What would be your final takeaway, your final message to the audience that listen to you today?
My final takeaway is I'm really, how you say, conscious that I'm very lucky in terms of doing something I love, you know, being surrounded by creatives, and being able to develop, you know, the understanding and the visibility of artists that I honestly respect a lot, and love their work. And I would, you know, just want to make sure that everybody that I can influence in terms of buying art, of finding an interest in art, or trying to understand their, you know, art scenes, you know, at least take a step today in trying to maybe understand what are the top artists of their country, for example, you know, who they are, where they have been, you know, what are their career paths, you know, and if there's an interest. And to be honest, for people who are not at all, you know, sensitive to art, you know, I would, you know, want to make sure that they find a way, you know, to surround themselves with creative people, because they have like a mind of their own, you know, and it's lovely to be around them and to be able to share moments with such talented or creative people. So I wish it to everybody around me to have the chance to, you know, to have artists in their lives, you know, because they are amazing people.
Thank you very, very much. Before I say goodbye, let me tell you, this was a great interview, and also people showed their interest in the questions they asked. We don't have time for more. I'm very conscious of the time of our guests, and we are coming to the end of this interview. But before I say goodbye, next week we will have also an exceptional person. We'll be into a new field, a field that we haven't touched yet, the field of interpretation. And the major organizations, and how you actually get into this, with Mrs. Paul Keke. Touria, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for making time. I'm so glad we had this interview, and be blessed, and continue to blossom, and continue to be my friend and Nadia's friend, and we love you.
Well, I love you too, Jill, and enjoy your last few days in Marrakesh.
Yeah, you too. You do the same. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.